You're watching the Anthony James YouTube channel, where I, Anthony James, as well as some of my friends, review TV and film. It would mean the world to me if you would subscribe. Hello, and welcome back to our His Dark Materials discussion and review. Well, Eimear, how have you been this week?
I live with you, so...
Well, I don't know how you've been, though. I never ask you, except unless we're on camera. Unless it's being recorded, I never actually ask you how you are. So how are you there?
Well, come to think of it, I've not been doing great. It's like, I don't even want to get into it.
All right, well, I'll ask you again next week, right? We'll see if you want to talk about it then. All right, well, this week's episode was great. It was called The Angels in the Tower, or The Tower of the Angels. Tower of the Angels. Angels weren't in the tower, they were on the tower. That's the thing. So I thought this episode was really cool. Obviously, we're going to get into some details about it, but overall, good episode.
I really enjoyed it. I think we're finally now getting into the real meaty bit of the series. I feel like up until this episode, a lot of it has been set up, which, don't get me wrong, I've really enjoyed. But now I feel like, okay, we're well established now. We have an understanding of each world now. Now let's get on with the story. Yeah. I feel like that's this episode.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, like, as soon as we watched, like, the little bit at the start where, I don't know who it was, but I imagine, like, a witch, I don't know what it was, or maybe it was the voice of the dust, I don't know what it was, describing, like, the creation of the subtle knife.
Yeah, I think that was Ruta Scadi, and I'm only basing that on the voice, because when I was listening to it, I was like, is that Ruta Scadi? So it could have been. Yeah,
it could have been. So I was actually thinking about that, and whenever she said the subtle knife, in my head I was like, clearly, like,
of course there's going to be a knife in this.
No, because I know the names of the books.
Yeah.
And I just completely forgot that the second book was called The Subtle Knife.
Yeah.
So when she said that, I was like, oh, all right. And it was a real, like, Lord of the Rings, one ring to rule them all.
I thought it was very Lord of the Rings, yeah. And funny, when I read the book, it didn't feel Lord of the Ringsy at all to me, but it wasn't jarring. You know, it did not fit.
It's the way they chose to bring it in.
To tell the story, yeah.
Yeah, and they sort of, like you know, the one ring being forged in the fires of Mount Doom, that sort of thing. It sounded exactly like that to me. And all I started thinking was, the Amber Spyglass is the name of the third book. And I thought, I never thought of the Amber Spyglass being a thing either. So now I'm really thinking about that too. So the Amber Spyglass, can't wait to see that. I can't believe I didn't ever think about
that there'd be an actual knife involved.
Yeah, I don't know why. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
In your defense, as I said earlier, the subtle knife sounds like it could be a metaphor for something. Because you don't normally describe a knife as subtle.
It's true. It's true. So for a subtle... Yeah, exactly. Knives are not subtle at all.
On that note, I really like the prop design. It was, in fact, a subtle knife. It was very petite.
Very small. Yeah. I liked the way that the metal was sort of curving, and I liked how both sides of the blade were like a different finish.
Yes.
One was sort of an oily looking finish. Yeah. I don't know what you would call. I'm not a metal worker.
Yeah.
But it was really nice, and then the other side was really just clean and plain. Yeah. So it was the clean shiny side. That's the world cutting side, I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least that's...
Well, it's one of the two.
Yeah.
we could be right, we could be wrong. But when they were pointing at the side of the knife that kills or cuts anything, I thought that was like the oily part, like the oily looking side.
Well, that's the part that Lyra said looks like the device at Bollingvar, I don't know how to pronounce it, where Mrs. Coulter was severing demons from children. She said, I've seen that metal before, that's what they used, basically.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because they were using it to sever the things. Yeah. It's funny you said didn't know how to pronounce that there. It's because Himba read the books, so now you're hearing things for the first time.
Yeah, I am. I'm like, oh, I pronounced everything wrong.
Yeah, you're fully doing a Hermione Granger here.
I am. Yeah, a Hermy one.
A
Hermy one Granger.
Hermy one Granger. Yeah, and there was a character called Giacomo who's the bearer of the knife, and
I was like, oh, it's not Giacomo.
No, Giacomo, but you know what? He's good.
You know, I don't speak that many languages. I'm going in here attempting to pronounce things that are based on, you know, other parts of the world, and I'm not very good at it, but I'm doing my best.
I was very surprised to see him die, because I thought he was going to go off to our world and create a new clothes website.
Giacomo. Oh dear.
Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen. Anyway, we thought just before we sort of continue the conversation and sort of get into the whole episode by episode thing, I wanted to say, obviously we're in a different situation today.
Yeah.
We don't have our usual big fireplace behind us, which is our setting for these videos.
Yes, our backdrop.
Fireside chat, you know.
Yes.
We don't have that going on today, so because we just didn't have time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was either spend the time we have setting up for the video or record the video.
Yeah. Again, we'll always blame it on the two babies.
Yeah, but it's really my fault. It's really my fault. I'm the one who has to go to work all day and like actually, you know, waste my time doing that when I could be making more YouTube videos.
I know, for goodness sake.
I know. If only. All right. Okay. Anyway, so a few things here. So 300 years ago, there was a group of philosophers who actually created the knife. I'm really tempted just to come out and ask you, but I'm not going to. So I'm wondering whether we're going to learn more about that guild. I'd imagine we will. I don't know how time moves in the different worlds. So like 300 years ago for one world might actually be present day for another, or not.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, but I guess the worlds are completely separate from each other, having never crossed paths. So there are some discoveries that may never make it into some worlds.
Well, that's true.
You know, so like Lyra's world, it doesn't seem like they're going to have a computer.
Yeah.
You know, at all. So.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, well, yeah, because they are advancing their world a fair bit, but they have never actually properly got out technology yet.
They don't have showers.
That's right.
And Lyra just Will had to tell her it was a bath standing up.
Yeah, actually, that is strange. Actually,
yeah.
So actually, it doesn't really matter. But what my point is that 300 years ago. I was wondering when that happened. Is 300 years ago the same for all worlds? Anyway, it probably is. I think just for...
Yeah.
I think that means 300 years ago in the time of the universe.
Well, they're parallel, aren't they? So that would imply they're happening all at the same time.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Also in this episode, we got Lord Boreal. For the first time, in my opinion, showing a bit of weakness. Because when he went into the meeting with Mary Malone to try and get the funding, at the beginning of that, he had a few awkward moments. Where they didn't, and he was said like to, what do you say to Mary? It's good to see a woman, because obviously from his world, maybe the women aren't. I don't know, but the Mrs. Coulter. Anyway, it's good to see a woman who's so
with the work ethic. He said,
yeah, work ethic. Yeah,
I would say yes that culturally in his world it does look like sort of men and women are a bit more separated culturally. Having said that, I think it was also just a weird thing to say.
That's what
because he does know Mrs. Coulter and all, and he's being it was a bit like negging, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like a backhanded compliment. It was like, oh, you work hard for a woman.
Yeah,
like,
but I don't know what he was doing. Maybe it was just negging, but in my mind, I was like, this is the first time we've seen Lord Boreal sort of not be cool, you know, not sort of be in his element and be able to manipulate people and be able to.
But I think that's also down to the character he was trying to manipulate.
Yeah.
You know, like Mary.
Mary just.
She was just like, "Who's this loser?" You know, she just saw through him, and I think that's says something about both of their characters, really.
Yeah, and he wasn't expecting that because in his world, he's a lord. You know, it's like he's respected.
And he can control people easily, and everything has a veil over it in his world, whereas she's quite upfront. So far, we have no reason to believe that she's dishonest in any way, to the point where. Lyra walked in and was like, show me your work. And she went, okay.
Yeah.
You know, she's so
okay,
upfront.
Young girl.
Yeah. Okay, person I've never met before.
Let me show you this top secret dark matters.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think she also has an element of, frigate, you know, I'm losing funding anyway.
Yeah.
So it's almost given her, it's a bit like the Doc Holliday effect. You know what I'm talking about when I refer to that. So,
him being sick.
Yeah, so Doc Holliday, the cowboy, like was known for just throwing himself into dangerous situations because he was dying anyway. So I think there's a touch of that about Mary Malone in that she's like, what have I got to lose?
Like the investigations, like the funding's already running out, so she may as well. And it worked out well for her. So I thought it was really interesting and a great character moment, like building her character when she completely flat out just ended the meeting because he mentioned defense funding.
Yeah. Well, it tells us her moral stance.
Yeah, it also tells us what Boreal was expecting to actually be effective in that situation.
Yeah.
Like he thought that, you know...
Oh, this would be a normal thing that's a good enough excuse. And,
and there's no way that this woman wouldn't want to support the defense of the country.
Yeah, of course. And it just does tell you that...
He has no idea about the political nuances within the modern world.
Yeah, well, he thinks he has sort of control. He's no Mrs. Coulter. I think Mrs. Coulter could navigate our world better than he did.
Yeah.
I think. And you know, it was just quite interesting, I thought, because it also tells you that I think he's quite cynical about people. Mm-hmm. You know, because he's used to manipulating people and he's used to dealing with manipulative people. Yeah. And everybody's got an agenda at his, I don't know, could you say class? At his class level, I suppose. Yeah. I don't know if that's...
Definitely could say class, yeah.
Yeah. Bless you. We have a baby here.
Bless you, son.
I'm sure you're not shocked by now. In every video, there is a baby hiding out of shot.
Yeah.
So please excuse the baby sneezing.
Yeah, and there's one hanging over there.
No, we're not that bad.
No, we've got a hanging cot.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried to make that better.
On the treetop.
Yeah, exactly.
And when the wind blows.
You know.
Okay.
When the whistle blows. Anyway, yeah. So Lord Boreal, I thought showed a little bit of a thing. He a little bit of a weakness there.
Yeah.
Mary Malone was great.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting throughout the episode, the spectres looming more so, because obviously in the last episode we didn't really see them at all.
Yeah.
We had at the end of episode 1. Which episode was it? One where it was coming up behind Will.
Wasn't that episode 1?
Yeah, and then so this is episode 4 now, and finally we're seeing the spectres properly again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What did you think of seeing the spectre claim the boy from the tower?
Well, we didn't really see much of it.
Yeah, but what do you think of how they did it? Like,
sort of didn't show much of it.
Yeah.
Well, they'd already had a fair bit of gore in that episode with the cutting of the fingers, and they'd already showed the spectres a lot. Going and having a look at Giacomo before moving away. Giacomo.
Yeah.
But so I actually didn't mind that. I didn't.
Yeah.
I thought it was a bit strange, like the building up the tension when we'd already seen them so much in the episode. It wasn't really the same tension building moment. At the same time, they decided to do that, I think, to save budget.
Possibly. I mean, although I don't think there's expense spared in this show. It's a HBO collaboration.
Yeah, that is true, actually. And to be honest with you, they showed so much of the spectres that if it was a budget thing, they would have just took one of them out of a different shot and put that in. So actually, I didn't actually think of it until you said that. Actually, reflecting on it, I don't think it was that effective. Yeah.
I agree. That's why I asked, because I thought we've seen the devastating effect on episode 1, I think it was, that the spectres do to people, and you saw that sort of young boy, well, I was going to say young man, I should say, wandering about like a zombie. Yeah, exactly. He's through the change. But he's wandering about like a zombie. And you saw the sort of horror that the spectres do to people. And that was more horrible than watching someone get caught. I thought that was a bit of an anticlimax. It's like, I think if you're going to show us this horrible, devastating effect that was really effective, the sort of the build up, the release of the building of tension when someone gets caught, it has to be better than that.
Yeah,
you know, and it wasn't. It was just like bah, and it was like done.
It was literally
I would prefer it to have
I went the wrong way. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. That was exactly it. But I would have preferred it to have been...
The whole mirroring thing here, I didn't know where to go.
Oh well. I would have preferred it to have been a slow, painful death.
Yeah.
So, you know, not really a death, but, you know, a slow, painful removal of the soul.
Screw that guy.
Yeah.
And I will say, actually, I did predict in the last episode that was going to be Jacqueline's brother. Oh, Jacqueline. Angelica's brother.
Yeah. Yeah,
I did predict that, even though, you know, it was probably a pretty obvious prediction, to be honest with you. But
still, I'm going to give you the points for it.
Yeah.
It's the sort of thing that, you know, I'm a bit more dense than you. I wouldn't have picked up on it.
Yeah, you're not dense at all. You've already read the books, that's the problem. So you can't...
So I have no idea what I would be able to predict.
Exactly, yeah. And when you're reading a book, I don't think because you're doing it in yourself. In my opinion, you only really predict things when you have someone to talk to about it.
Possibly, yes.
So when I'm watching a show and like I'm just watching it by myself, I'm not necessarily going to be saying my predictions out loud. So my predictions will just be like in my head and then gone.
Yeah.
And then later on, I might say, "Oh yeah, I thought that was going to happen," but it was not. It wouldn't classify a prediction. You know.
Yeah. You didn't formalize it.
Exactly. Yeah. We also got the big reveal, and I think I did predict this too. Although I kind of predicted it was going to be it could be anyone. That Will's dad is Grumman.
Yeah.
Although he didn't say it was Will, did he? But
we've seen a picture of Will's dad.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
And so it was confirmation that was him.
No, yeah. That's right. Actually, you're correct there. And there was someone in the comments, I think, a few episodes ago, who said something about like if we had picked up on different clues, we could have known that Grumman was his dad before this. I think there was clues of talking about Grumman through Boreal's storyline before this as well.
Possibly, but I wouldn't have. I don't remember what.
But I to be honest with you, I didn't pick up on that at all. And
I probably did because I've read it and I knew from the offset who his dad was going to be. But then I wouldn't have said anything to you about it, obviously, because I don't want to spoil it.
That's true. That's true. And also, to be honest with you, like, there was only a few candidates. I was surprised that we found out who his dad was so early, even though we're technically almost halfway through the whole story, aren't we? Because there's only 3 books.
Well, I was going to say we're on book 2.
Yeah, exactly. So I wonder what they're going to do after this. Are they going to move on to other stuff? Or are they I don't know what. It's interesting. Is it just going to be 3 series and done? Interesting. I don't know.
You mean of the TV show?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
Like I don't think they're going to make up anything. They're not going to make up new stories.
No,
but I mean, there are books,
Yeah.
you know. Yeah. So I'd wonder what they're going to do there. Mm-hmm. But yeah. So I actually was really a bit. To be honest with you, I didn't really like that we found out who his dad was in this episode. I thought it was a bit of a strange place in the series to put it.
Yeah. Like,
I know it's the 4th episode, so it's sort of halfway through, so it's maybe the right place for a big reveal. But I just thought, like, it's all this build-up of his dad. There's so much build-up, and it was, like, so mysterious. Like, he went away to this other world, and there was also this world-splitting stuff going on in Azrael. And I thought, like, it was when we found out who his dad was, that was going to be also the time when we found out a load of answers. Like, I thought with his dad would come answers, but with his dad came nothing.
So far.
Well, so far, but I mean,
but the dad is now joining the adventure now. He's with Lee Scoresby.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, I thought that the rabbit hole of like the finding out who his dad was going to be one to find out loads of, like,
Yes, I know what you mean.
It just it felt a bit anticlimactic to me, to be honest with you. It felt like that's been being built up since the first episode. Mm-hmm. And I think actually you've mentioned before that in the book they don't focus on Will too much at the start. So maybe that's actually a problem with the TV show, is that because they focused on Will from the very beginning, I've been waiting.
Oh, you mean in season 1?
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't in book 1 at all.
So if Will's story started in season 2, then it wouldn't be that much of a build up to finding out who his dad was. Yeah. But for me, it was said at the very beginning of season 1, who's his dad?
Yeah.
And that was like, oh, this is one of the biggest questions in the show.
Yeah, yeah.
And then it was just like, oh, here's his dad. So I can really tell that the Will stuff wasn't meant to be going yet in the first season because of that. At
the same time, I think I'm glad they did bring Will into the first season, because we needed time as an audience to get to care about him and to get to care about to get to know his context before we see him with Lyra. Yeah. So I think it worked out. Yeah. But I think you've made a good point there. Yeah. Which I never ever would have thought of.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But you wouldn't have thought that because you've had the story already.
Yeah, exactly, because I already knew. I was just watching it unfold.
Exactly. So basically, we've got a couple of other maybe 2 more things I'd like to touch on. The first thing I wanted to touch on was what we think Lyra and Will are going to do with this knife. Now, obviously you know, but in my mind, what I want them to do, once they get the alethiometer back, I want them just to start cutting the fabric of time and just going through and just like start jumping about.
Fuck it.
Yeah, exactly.
Next one. And the guy was like, do not use this for base purposes. You must be very careful. Seal up every hole you make. And you're just like, nope.
You know what I would do? I'd cut one, right?
Yeah.
And then I would cut one right next to it, like literally right next to it. Yeah. In the next string over. Yeah. Cut another one, right? And then cut another one. So there's 3. Yeah. And then what I would do is I'd close up the outside 2, and there's an inside portal on the inside. So it's imagine 3 zippers, right? 3 zippers.
Yeah,
but
why not?
The middle one's open, but the other 2 are closed.
Why not just cut the middle one?
But because you're not in that world yet.
But you will be.
but that's a way to leave one open. Like you cut one, go through, close it up, cut one, go through, cut one, go through, close up the other one. Probably gonna happen, I'd say.
Right.
So many possibilities. What if you cut one down like this and then cut one across? You can't cut one across.
They don't go across.
That's right.
It's not actual fabric.
Yeah, that's right. On the warp on the bias and all. Yeah. But basically, I'm really looking forward to see what they do with this. Although I do think as well, I did mention something about strings.
Yeah.
But that was just because it looks like we haven't actually had that confirmation that these are puppet strings, but we have kind of had confirmation that the angels angels are actually they're moving things around and controlling things, which is something I also predicted. So this show, you might say it's very predictable.
No. I wouldn't say it's predictable. I think it's that it's drawing parallels, and you can see them as it's drawing.
Oh
them.
yeah, like
Do you know what I mean?
don't really.
It's not really predictable. It's just that you're noticing layers to it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's because you're not going, this is really obviously the plot that's going to happen next. You're going, I noticed this symbolism matches with that part of the story.
Yeah. Oh no, like,
yeah.
Of course, I don't think it's that predictable.
The thing is as well,
if it does say the show's predictable, I'm not giving myself enough credit. You know, whereas if I say it's so hard to predict, but then I've got like four predictions right already, it's like, actually, you know what? I'm doing pretty well here.
One of your greatest attributes is your modesty, I have to say.
Yeah, no, this is the funny thing. In every other video I make, I am I'm very modest, and I would say I'm very nice, right? But see the fact that you're here, and I know that you're going to take me down a peg when I do sort of go over the top in terms of pat myself in the back. I can do it in this video knowing that you'll take me down a peg. Well, I can't do it on my own. If I do it on my own, then everyone in the comments is going to say,
dude, what a
dickhead.
Do you know what? It's because we've lost the fancy background. Well, beautiful fireside. What do you think this is?
I know.
Pull yourself together. What do you think this is? The Ritz?
I know. Well, not anymore, no.
Yeah. You have
it's
to
right, it's right over there, so technically we're still sitting in front of it.
Yeah, but you've got your flat, ugly TV background now.
I thought you were going to say your flat, ugly face.
No, not that bad.
All right, okay. So last thing. Well, actually, there's a load to talk about. But if you think of something, you can bring it up. But last thing I want to talk about was the stuff talking to her through the TV.
The computer.
The dust talking. The angels talking to her through the dust through the computer.
Mary Malone, I take it you're talking about.
Mary Malone, yep. So
I like that scene. I thought that scene was really cool.
I did too. So am I to understand just that okay, this is my understanding of it, is that in Lyra's world, someone has already been through this, and they've already figured it out, and they were able to create alethiometers from it, and so the angels found a way to communicate with that world through the alethiometer.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Now, our world has just got to that point through Mary Malone.
Yes.
And so now they're using that world's technology to communicate with that world.
Yeah, I think that's how I interpret it.
So every world will have a different way of communicating with the angels.
If they achieve it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was interested, interested with it being a voice. I didn't think that was going to happen. Literally a voice from above.
No, I do think that she was by herself. So I would have said I would have interpreted that as she's hearing it in her mind. That's the voice she heard in her mind.
Stylistically, it might be, it's talking to her through the little pedal things.
Yes, like it was in her...
Those little stickies.
Yeah, her mind was... This voice was
her
placed
mind's
in her
ear.
mind. Yeah, her mind's ear. Yeah. And I think if someone else had been in the room, she would have been talking to herself.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense to me. And to be honest with you, I like that a lot better. I didn't like the idea of this voice started coming out of the computer. You know, I didn't quite... It was a bit jarring to me. Yeah. But now that it's in... The idea of it's in her mind, I'm fully on board with that, and I think that's cool.
That's how I interpreted it.
But I don't believe that Lyra hears a voice in her head.
No.
I think that she does interpret the symbols with her own brain. Yeah. Because she's the chosen one.
Well, she spoke about putting your mind in a certain state.
Yeah.
Lyra did. And also, you have to note as well that Mary Malone, we know from the characters talking to each other that she had gone days without sleep and things like that, and she was working really hard to try and achieve this state or make some sort of communication, and that's so like she maybe couldn't do it again as effectively tomorrow after a good night's sleep, for example. So I think that kind of thing's going on as well.
Interesting. Also, I have to touch on maybe that the angels were creating, like sort of helping along human evolution for vengeance. That's something we probably should touch on.
Yes.
That was a bit heavy.
Did you enjoy that? Like, that sort of notion? Do you have any opinions on where that's going to go plot-wise, or do you have any sense?
I'm just thinking vengeance against who? I'm thinking...
Yeah. What are the angels... What's their agenda?
I mean, do I have to go and read books on religion and the Bible to figure out why angels might be feeling vengeful towards someone? Maybe something about the fall of the angels, something about Lucifer Isn't Lucifer a fallen angel?
Yeah, he is.
Well, maybe it's something to do with that.
Maybe.
Is Lucifer in the show?
I will neither confirm nor deny.
Is this a crossover with the TV show Lucifer? Yeah, maybe. But anyway, so I'm going to go and read all those books, guys. That's our discussion this week. Anything to add before we go?
Not really. I'm just looking forward to seeing where... Yeah.
You loving it, night, son?
Yeah, good boy.
You love this episode?
I'm just looking forward to seeing where your predictions will go. Like, as in... You know, every episode you...
Oh, you look forward to seeing what I think's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Because you know where my predictions are going to go.
Well, I know what's going to happen in the show. So
No.
I've got to get my my excitement from somewhere.
That's true. All right, guys. Thanks very much for watching.
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week. If you could subscribe, you won't miss us next week. Turn the little bell on as well. That'd be great. Apart from that, we're just going to go. And hopefully next week we'll find the time to get back in front of our little set over there. If not, no, I think it worked well. I think it worked well enough here as well this week.
We make no promises.
Make no promises.
Well, maybe when our babies are a bit bigger,
Yeah.
we'll have more time.
All right, guys. See you later.